Welcome to Thrive Vision with your host, Dr. Stephanie Ballman.
Hello, it's Dr. B. Welcome back to Thrive Vision. I'm here with the amazing Sarah, and we are continuing the surprise questions, which I think is totally fun because it makes me think, and then I have to speak off the cuff, which is pretty fun to do.
Doing anyway.
I actually do like to do that, and I do it every day in the office anyway. People are always like coming to me with questions, and I never know what they're going to be, and so you have to be ready. So this is pretty fun, and if I didn't say, welcome back to Thrive Vision. I'm Dr. B, but I think I said that.
Okay, new topic. Ready?
Yes.
Germ theory versus terrain theory.
Ooh.
This is a really good topic that I feel like more people need to understand.
It is a really good topic.
So here we go.
Okay, great. So there's lots of history to this, and I don't think I'm going to spend the time going really into the history, just keep it very brief. But
yeah, tell us, what is germ theory?
yeah, so germ theory is really where people are at now and have been for a very long time. So germ theory is more of the idea of, if I touch your jacket, there's germs on there and I'm going to get them.
Okay.
Right? This is very, very simple.
I see how it is. So I have the germs and she's going to get it from me.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Exactly, right? So, or because I cough, then that, right, automatically. And so...
Right. Like I'm going to take in your sickness.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And there's lots of things surrounding this. I mean, I could probably talk about this for a very, very long time. But very simply, it's like, you go to the grocery store and you touch the cereal box. Don't buy cereal. It's crap. But let's say you touch the cereal box. Or let's say you grab the avocado that somebody else picked up too, right? And then you're like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden I'm very sick. And that's kind of...
So you must have caught it from somewhere.
Yeah, you must have caught it. You must have caught it from somewhere. So germ theory is really saying that parasites, bacteria, viruses, right, these different microorganisms are the cause of different infectious diseases.
Okay.
Okay. Terrain theory is, and let me back up. So with germ theory, that's what's really widely accepted, and it has been for a very long time. So terrain theory is more of the idea of toxins exist in your environment, and we have a symbiotic relationship with our environment, or we should, right? And we should be able to live in this environment. And pause, I don't really know where I was going with. So terrain theory really talks more about that we live within this environment, right? We're going to come into contact with toxins. We're going to come into contact with viruses and bacteria and parasites and all these different factors because we have this, or we should have a symbiotic relationship with our environment.
Okay.
Right? Germ theory says we should medicate and isolate.
Okay.
Terrain theory says we clean up the environment. Okay, so the example that I like to use a lot, because I think everybody can relate to this, is germ theory is you pull the fish out of a dirty fish bowl.
Okay.
You medicate, you vaccinate, you isolate that fish.
Okay.
But you never do anything with the environment in which it lives. Right?
Okay.
Where if we look at terrain theory, we leave that fish in there. But then we start cleaning up the environment in which it lives.
Okay.
Right? We start changing the water. We change its food. We, all these, we change the light source. Right? We do all these different things. And so by changing the terrain that the fish is living in or having a symbiotic relationship with, the health of the fish begins to improve.
Okay.
Right? If we take that fish out of the water and we isolate it, medicate it, whatever, and then put it back in the same environment that it was living in, is it really any healthier? No. Right?
If anything, the fish is more toxic now.
Right. Because anytime you come in contact with medication, the body has to recover 2 times. It has to process the medication.
Okay.
And then it has to heal from the very thing that was causing the issue in the first place.
Right.
Right?
Interesting.
Whereas terrain theory says, no. Let's clean up the environment. Right? And people live here too. Some people, right? Like we said, the germ theory is what's widely accepted.
Right.
But really, I think what is happening is terrain theory is more true. Right? And then Louis Pasteur is the man who claimed germ theory.
Right.
Whereas Béchamp is, or how do you say his name, is really who claimed terrain theory.
Right.
Well, on Pasteur's deathbed.
Yeah, didn't he say?
He said, germ theory is total bunk. Like, this is not true at all. Right? Terrain theory is what is true. And
so why wasn't that listened to, for one thing? How do we know that, and yet nobody listened to it? Do you know what I mean?
Because germ theory puts people, and not just people, it puts animals too, right? We need to include animals and the things that we're talking about. It puts them in a place of when you can isolate them and get them away from what God intended, because we were made for relationship, right? When you can change those relationships, you can isolate them.
Okay.
We can look at 2020 as a huge, like, thing for this, right? Don't go near people. Don't, right? Right? There's a lot of psychological issues that happened, right?
Yes.
We are made for relationship. So when you can take people out of the relationship, you can isolate them. And I don't mean just isolate them from relationships, but under germ theory, people feel very isolated.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes they're not listened to. Sometimes they're not heard. And I'm not saying things are perfect in terrain theory, but
a germaphobe in a way too.
It could, because you're not understanding.
You don't want to shake hands anymore.
Right.
You're afraid of, there's fear. It's a fear-based idea.
Right. It's a fear. Yeah, for sure. It's a fear tactic. But that is customer creation.
Yeah.
Because what are they doing? Medication. And like we said, when any medication that you're on, you have to recover 2 times. Once from the medication, and then the second thing from the disease, and that's more work. And as we said in previous podcasts, there's a time and a place.
Sure.
Right? But the body isn't, like, you're not born deficient in Tylenol. Right? You're not born deficient, right? No, you might be born deficient in the things that your body needs to help handle the pain. You might be born deficient in vitamins. Apparently I'm British all of a sudden. Minerals and vitamins and the cofactors that go along with all those things, right? There could be some physiological things that are not where they need to be, right? But we're not born with a deficiency in a medication. Right? And like I said, there are times and places where, there are major things that happen where people need, what comes to mind is like tetralogy of Fallot, right? Which is a heart condition. And yes, we need to fix that, right? That needs to be a surgery. There has to be medication that follows with that. But that's not a germ theory issue.
No.
Right? That's a whole other thing. And so in the idea of terrain theory, we can clean up the terrain. And as we clean up the terrain, we clean up the health of the individual, whether it be human or animal.
Right.
Right? And we see this time and time again in the office. Right? What are we doing? We're changing the terrain. Right? We're educating and changing the terrain, and then a person's health improves.
Right.
And it's also very interesting because I think today is actually BJ Palmer Day or something like that. Is it really? Yes. And so those of you who don't know about BJ Palmer, he's passed away very long time ago. But he is...
Is this your best friend? Did you call me yesterday?
Yes, I did. I called BJ yesterday, and I was like, hey, tomorrow's your day, BJ. Hope you have a great day. Surprise. But he's known as a developer of chiropractic. And so D.D. Palmer, his dad, is the modern day founder of chiropractic, and then BJ is obviously the developer of chiropractic, and I think today is BJ Palmer Day, so happy BJ Palmer Day. And anyways, he actually has a quote that says, if germ theory were true, nobody would be alive to believe it. And it's so true. And I've actually kind of said this in the office before, not actually realizing that he said that. I've known that he said that, but I don't think at the time I was thinking of it. If you really think about germ theory, that's like, I touched this, I get this, that person died, now I'm going to too.
Right.
Right? That doesn't make sense. Like, that's not how it doesn't work that way.
Right.
Right? It doesn't work that way.
So why do you think then that's the most widely known theory? Why?
Because it creates customers.
So fear-based.
Yeah.
It's a fear tactic.
It's a fear tactic. When you can get someone into fear, and we can look at something called a tone scale. If we look at the tone scale and just base upon where people are at, people who are in fear, who are operating out of fear, they're one, that's a low tone, but then they become, their tone begins to decrease and decrease.
Okay.
Well, then they're non-operational.
Right.
Right? They're not thinking on their own. They're doing things because, I have to.
Right.
Oh my gosh, if I, and I'm not saying, fear is a huge motivator.
Yeah.
Right? We saw that in 2020.
I think
fear
we're
is
seeing
a
it
huge motivator.
again, at least here in West Texas too, with the measles.
Right.
The amount of fear-based posts I've seen online is scary in itself because
Right. And I'm not saying, that I haven't been in fear myself. I think we're all going to move through these different tones.
Absolutely.
Right? So this is not a like, well, you're in fear and I'm not. So it's not like that.
No.
It's that I think we need to understand, like we said previously in a different podcast about discernment. We need to use discernment about where we're at and where we need to go.
Yes.
And we need to seek wise counsel and not just, well, so-and-so said, so that's what, because that may be coming from a place of fear. And
well, and if it comes from the news, it is from a place of fear because
absolutely.
That's the spin of the story, right?
Right.
The clicks, the views, the reads, however they calculate that.
Right. They like to
That's
get that.
what that is.
They like to bring those cortisol levels up.
Absolutely.
Because that puts you into stress. And when you're operating from a place of chronic stress, that can make you or help you stay in that fear-based place. So why is the news at 10 p.m.?
Yeah. Right before bed.
Right before bed. It gets your cortisol going.
Yes. Well, and it's like my mother always said, too. She always said that with parenting. She's like, the more things that you feared for your child to do, you were basically willing them to do it, right? So if you were terrified that your child was going to get into drugs and you obsessed about that, chances are that child went and did drugs because that's all they heard about.
Yeah.
And if you parented in a way that it wasn't like fear-based, it was more like, you're such a good child. I'm so happy to be your mom. I love being your mom. And it was more a positive thing. They were less likely to go and indulge in things that they weren't supposed to be doing because they believed
you're coming from a place
what
of
their
love.
parents said. Yes, exactly.
Right. Well, and if we look, here we are back to biblical things. If we look back at what the Bible's teaching, right? Love conquers all.
Yes.
Right? Which is, got
and the greatest one of these is love.
That's right. And so fear puts you in a place that is just such a, I say special, not like happy special, but like, ooh, man, it's such a place that it's difficult to rise up out of a place of fear. And I don't mean like oh my gosh, this is kind of scary, but from a constant state, a more chronic place of fear.
Yes.
People don't operate well from there. And then once they've been there for a while, they tend to move down the tone scale. And then we've got more and more issues. And we see lots of different things with that,
Yes.
So with a terrain theory, you clean up the terrain. Right? And really that whole idea is, that's partly that's what we do in our office.
Absolutely.
Right, is we clean the terrain and we help educate people on this. And then I think another point to that is the point of the microbiome. Right? And this can be a whole thing in and of itself, but we all have our microbiomes, different organ systems have microbiomes, and so when the terrain is off, the microbiome system is off.
Right.
Right? But we can help change that microbiome system and help it operate in a different, not in a different place. But from a more healthy place, I should say. And then the health of the body begins to improve. Because when the terrain's bad, microbiome's bad. And then when microbiome's bad, we're more susceptible to having dis-ease.
Right. And then comes the fear-based thinking again, because your body believes what you tell it.
Oh, 100%.
So if you're so fearful about getting something or contracting something, you're basically willing
you're drawing it to
you.
yourself. Absolutely. Absolutely. There's power in the word. We know that.
Yep.
The Bible teaches that as well, right? There's power in what we say.
Absolutely.
Our words are so important. And so when we're telling ourselves, like, I can heal, I have the ability to heal, and we're doing that from a place of love. And really, you know, as a practitioner, and I know we kind of talked about this in a previous episode, or a previous podcast, is choosing practitioners, right? And we need to use discernment with that. And so I think something that's really important is practitioners who are operating from a place of love and from a higher place on the tone scale to help bring you up and bring you out of that fear-based thinking. People will move. Some people won't. Some people will stay there because they've been there for so long, and they have become more low toned, and so it can be very difficult to
in a way.
They're comfortable. Exactly. Facing your health and what you need to do about it, that's a big confront.
Yes, it is.
And some people aren't willing to confront those things because that can be a lot of work, right? It's losing the identity.
Yeah.
And we all want identity with something, right? We want to identify, but I think it's important to remember that our identity is in Christ.
Yes.
It's not in the Lyme. It's not in the mold. It's not in the anxiety. It's not in
the diagnosis.
No, exactly.
Break up with the diagnosis.
Yes. Thank you. Break up with the diagnosis, y'all. It's just a word, right? And not that the word has power and it has meaning, and then you're putting that onto yourself. Don't claim it.
Yeah.
Right? Tell yourself that you're healthy. Stand in the mirror. Tell yourself in the mornings, I love myself. I am healing. I am healthy. I am making healthy choices today. Like, do those things. It seems very silly, but do it, because when you can do those things, you begin to change your perspective. You begin to change the neurochemical process in the brain, and you begin to rewire things. It's not easy.
Yeah.
Right? How do these people that, you know, I don't know, they get like stuck on Mount Everest, right? And they're like, well, I had to chew my arm out of the. How do they do that?
I don't know.
Right? This is like kind of a tangent, but
where are we going with this? I don't know.
They do it. They survive because, well, I think it's probably multifactorial. So, you know, whatever. But they're telling themselves, "I'm going to survive."
Right.
Like, that is the option. There's no plan B.
Right.
This is the option.
Yeah.
Right. This is what I'm doing. I am surviving. I will do what it takes to survive, and you know, there's that neurochemical process that happens when those brain rewires. Why is that hard to say? Rewires. When the brain, I can't even say it. I can't say it 10 times fast because I can't say it 2 times slow. Let me turn West Texas for just a second. When the brain rewires itself, there we go. Really cool things happen, right? And the body can do amazing things because it's designed to do that.
Yeah.
Our Maker is amazing. Our Maker gave us. We were made in His image, right? We just said that on a previous episode, podcast, whatever. And so, like we said, our identity comes from there.
Yeah.
Our healing comes from there. Everything about ourselves starts there and then comes down. And so, living in a place of fear, not Christ-like.
Yeah.
Not biblical. And we're all going to do it, right? We're humans.
Sure.
We're humans.
Absolutely.
It's going to
be a default thing.
Right.
You have to choose not to be.
Right. Exactly.
It's a choice.
Right. I mean, can you imagine being Daniel in the lion's den?
No.
And you're in, I mean, oh gosh. Talk about fear.
Yeah.
Right? What does he do? Immediately what we all should be doing that we forget to do, he turns and he prays.
Yeah.
Right? Can you imagine being like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? And they're in this fire, and then boom, the angel of the Lord's there. Why? Because where was their faith?
Yep.
Right? And
that's a good question. Where's your faith?
Yeah, where's your faith? You know, Paul, when he was imprisoned so many different times, and Yeah. What was he doing? Right? I mean, just sending out love over and over and over and over. Correction and love, right? Yep. But all these things, it's just so cool.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine being, in the book of Exodus and having to go through the plagues and, having to put the blood on your not your doorstep, but
no, the doorway.
Yeah, on the above, whatever that thing is called. So that the angel of death, can you imagine like if you had like a moment where you're so busy like prepping, like I got to get all these things, and you get in the bed and then you're like, holy smokes.
Yeah.
I forgot to put that. Oh my gosh, is it too late? Oh gosh. Talk about fear.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And then like you leave and you're like, everything's great. And then, boom, there's this major Egyptian army behind you. Mm-hmm. And you're at this body of water. What do? And Moses is like, I part the Red Sea. Boom.
Yep.
Right? And then it closes. Like, those are some fear things, man.
Yeah. But also great faith.
Yeah, great faith at the same time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was a wild tangent. For sure. But, back to terrain theory. Terrain theory is cleaning things up.
Yeah.
Right? Leaving the fish where it is, leaving yourself where you're at, and then cleaning up the environment, right? Mm-hmm. Cleaning out the toxins, cleaning up the parasites, cleaning up the mold, cleaning up thoughts, right? Cleaning up the emotion, help dealing with the stress, fixing the hormones, like all these things over time, because it's not going to happen in 6 weeks.
Right.
It's not going to happen in 3 months, right? Sometimes it's going to take years.
Sure.
And that's okay.
You also have to think about, too, how many years of dis-ease have you just undertaken? And it doesn't just heal overnight. Like, it has to be worked on. This is a process. There are layers to it.
Absolutely.
So,
when I think it's something that is somewhat difficult these days is because we live in such a, like, right now. I want this to happen right now.
Yes.
Me, too. I want it to happen for you right now. But in reality... That's not the case. That's not
how healing works.
That's not how healing works. Healing is like a wild roller coaster. Mm-hmm. And sometimes healing is going to ask you to walk back through something that it's like this spiral, right? I don't want to say it spirals down. I want to say it like it's like a staircase. Yeah. And in order to get to the top, you may have to go back to this thing again. Right? And then we may have to do that a few times. Mm-hmm. But it's so worth it when you can get your health on track because it changes your life in a positive way, which I think is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, speaking of terrain, I think it needs to be said that we can help you clean up your terrain. We can help you get healthy. We can help you change the environment and get your body functioning like it's designed to. And also, we can do this for your pets as well. I am a pet health coach, and so I can help coach you through some of these different things and help clean the terrain of your animal up as well. And we have patients that live all over the world that we help with this, both animal and human. So please call us. I am taking new patients. Let me scoot this way. So I am taking new patients. The top number is the human number. Bottom is animal. Please contact me there. We'd love to help you clean up your terrain and get yourself healthy so you're operating from a better place. This is where you can follow us at our different social media handles. Is that what you say?
Yep.
Different social media handles right there. And then we also have our amazing website that Sarah put together, so you can go on over to thriveholistic.net. And if there is something that you want to know about or for us to talk about on a podcast, please contact us. The form is down below. I've been talking too long. West Texas is about to start coming out.
We have a form for that.
We have a form for that. It is down below.
Yes.
In the comments. Thank you very much. And please fill that out, or you can contact us. You can go to thriveholistic.net, and there are a couple different ways to contact us there as well. So thank you so much for joining us on yet another episode of Thrive Vision. I'm Dr. Ballman, and this is the amazing Sarah, and we will see you very soon.